Hi, I'm Jonas. I lead the retro funding effort at the Optimism Foundation. Higher, higher, better. Okay, I see some familiar faces. That's nice. Um, I'm here to tell you about two experiments that we ran within the retro funding world. One was focused on data-driven decision making, and the other one was looking into the role in expertise on decision making outcomes. The kind of goal here is if you're building your own like grants funding mechanism, these insights, learnings that we're taking away from these experiments might help you in doing your own thing. Cool. Who here has heard of optimism retro funding before? Nice. Who here knows what it is? Great. Okay, because I thought I don't need to give you guys an intro on what this program is. Here's my 2-minute summary. We're trying to reward the contributors to Optimism for the impact that they provide, so for the value that they create for Optimism. Where we want to go with this is that everything from core protocol contributions down to dev tooling and other projects are rewarded for their impact on Optimism. We do this retroactively. We're kind of creating the future by looking into the past, by continuously rewarding what has provided value. We create this forward-looking incentive. Much more in-depth thing to go into here, why retro funding makes sense. Some rough numbers. We've had over 700 projects in 5 retro rounds, around 58 million OP. There's actually one going on right now, which is rewarding governance contributions. Here are some of the top projects that we've seen across rounds, just a random sample of the top 10 to get a sense of this. All projects that you hopefully know and love. Okay, skipping on to the interesting topic. So 2 large-scale experiments. One was what we framed as metrics-driven evaluation. So the idea here was, instead of having voters review each project, can we have voters decide on measurements, e.g. metrics, that are measuring some form of impact? And the way that the voters govern is just they decide what metrics are a valuable signal and which ones are not. The second one was on expert-based evaluation. So we had a round which was quite technical, and we tried to see what is the effect of expertise on the voting outcomes. I'm presenting here, but this is like a lot of teams that are working on this, made with love by teams like Open Source Observer, Agora, Gitcoin, Charmverse, OpenRank, Optimism Foundation, and more. And this is governed with care by Optimism citizens. This is a group of around 130 people that deeply care about making Optimism work. Metrics-based evaluation. This was the first experiment that we ran. So the scope of this retro round was rewarding on-chain builders for driving the adoption and usage of Optimism. So like what you may think of as a more classical growth campaign. This round had around like 250 builders, 10 million OP to be allocated. And in this round, each voter selected some set of metrics and applied weights to them. So this is like a snippet of what this voting experience looked like. You went in as a voter, you saw around 16 metrics that represented different measurements of on-chain activity of the on-chain builders. And you were able to select these metrics, add them to your ballot, and then add weights. What you see on the right side is we showed each voter the project allocations that are the outcome of their metrics and weights. So here as an example, this person chose like gas fees as an important measurement to understand how much impact a project has generated. And on the right, they see the outcome of all their metric choices. These were the top 5 metrics. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried to skip that over. We also had an open source reward multiplier. So we gave voters the choice to say, I want to give additional rewards to on-chain projects whose code is licensed under an open source license as defined by the open source initiative. This is a whole rabbit hole because it actually turns out it's pretty hard to like reliably classify which repos are actually open source. But thank you for the interruption question. Love that. More of that, please. These were the top 5 metrics. Nothing out of the ordinary. Gas fees, trusted users onboarded, trusted recurring users. There's a whole side here in how we structured these metrics with some trusted user models. More interruptive questions. Go for it.
Are you agree? I know that gas fees had like different sections. One was the very big gas fees, and then there was also transactions. Are you aggregating all those in gas fees?
Yes, we're aggregating. A very informed question. Exactly. Another rabbit hole here is, among the 16 metrics, we gave some of them on a logarithmic scale, essentially allowing you to express the preference of saying, I believe a project that has like 10,000 transactions only has like double the importance of a project with 1,000 transactions. Cool. Some observations from this round. Most people used like 5 to 6 metrics in their ballot. And the allocation, which is like a bit too far down for you guys to see, the results of the round had like a very strong power law distribution. So the top 20% of projects got around 70% of the rewards. And you see really that the concentration is quite high, and then there's this like very wide spread, with the median project only getting 13 KOP. And this is not really surprising, because this is kind of what you expect an economy to look like to a certain extent. Like you expect to find Pareto distributions. More observations from this. Much more efficiency for voters, which they liked for a change. In the previous round, we had voters spend 15 hours on average reviewing projects. Now this was 2 hours. The scale per project is nice though, because we could add infinitely more on-chain projects and the time spent by voters wouldn't change. There was like medium to high satisfaction with the results. We run surveys on this stuff, so people rated this as like 5 out of 7. 75% of like survey respondents said they felt this round measured the impact more accurately than the previous round. And all of the survey respondents, I think we had like 35 people that participated in the survey, said we should do more experiments with metrics-based evaluation. Like we should lean more into that model for different stuff. The biggest feedback from this is that the human touch is missing. So humans are really good at like qualitative assessment, and we can't really get this qualitative assessment by purely looking at the data. So what was really valuable in this round is having humans sense check that these metrics actually have the desired outputs, and just giving very like qualitative feedback, like this project seems very off, I've never heard of this before, but they perform incredibly well in this metric. And this was the biggest feedback from voters, that it felt like purely leaning in on data without really sense checking it seems dangerous, and that there's actually value to the human input in this process. So quick takeaways from this. Data is good at objective measurements. If you know what you want to measure and you have the data, why not do it? Data is bad at, like, data doesn't give you qualitative nuance, so humans are a better fit for that. But overall, we were able to like validate that this thing makes the process more efficient and has like a higher accuracy than asking people for their purely subjective input on what projects they believe to be valuable. Next thing we shipped was expert-based evaluation. So this round was about the OP stack, which is essentially the technical stack making up Optimism. And it included things, it had a category for Ethereum core contributions, so Ethereum core development work. This was around 8 million OP, 90 projects. And what we try to understand there is, do experts do a better job at judging the impact of different projects than non-experts? How this round worked was a kind of going back to a classical model. So each voter went in, they had a number of projects to review, around 30, and we asked them to like rate the impact of the project, and in the end weight the impact. So this is like an example of a ballot where somebody orders the project and then assigns weights, saying like this project should receive 25% of the rewards, so on and so forth. How we assigned expertise was pretty interesting. So we did this based on the GitHub contributions of voters. We had around 68 experts in this round, we used a Web of Trust type algorithm from OpenRank, shout out to them, which we seeded with the Optimism, the OP Stack repos to kind of get a sense check of like what is the proximity of different voters to these repos. And then we had non-experts, which were just existing citizens with no GitHub activity relating to the OP Stack. Here's a brief overview of what we found. Black points are experts, white points are non-experts, and you will see the diff. You see that like in some areas, like the votes of experts versus non-experts heavily varied. So these are the results of saying, what if we only took expert votes and calculated results, and what if we only took non-expert votes? A really interesting one is like Asphere Rollup as a Service, which is like a RAS provider that experts voted for it to receive 0, and non-experts voted for it to receive 130K OP. The distribution of this whole round was like overall very flat, which is interesting. So compare this to like the round four distribution, and it's like different worlds, right? This doesn't have a power law at all. The top 10%, the top 20% of projects get around like 25% of the rewards. Lau, go for it.
Can you tell us more about the second category, which is research and development and
Yes. So there's question was, can we talk about the second category? We had 3 different categories of projects, and the second one was very low. I don't know if I'm going to get into that now, but we can chat about it afterwards. Overall, what you see, super even distribution, and if you compare this on a project by project basis, on the voter basis, you see that this is just a result of people voting very evenly. So each of these nice little visuals represents the distribution curve of each ballot that was submitted. Red ballots are experts, gray ballots are non-experts. And so what you see is experts have much higher variance in how they vote, specifically like the highest variance ballots, and experts have much lower variance. We don't have conclusive answers why that is, but one hypothesis is that experts just feel much more strongly when they vote, and non-experts probably have like less conviction in their voting. The result of like low variance, this is a graphic from Trent from Protocol Guild and his recent article, is that you don't represent impact well, right? If something is such an even spread, that is pretty much a red flag that you're not actually representing value well. So here the example was like Protocol Guild, which represents core developers, got pretty much like 1 KOP per core developer. An independent Ethereum contributor got like 37K OP, right? So it doesn't quite add up. And yeah, this is again experts versus non-experts. You see non-experts were even, which was an even more even spread across the board. So some takeaways. An interesting observation here was people had very high conviction that this design of the round went well. We asked them going into the round, do you feel good about this round and the results you expect to see? And they said, yes, we believe it's the best round ever, much more than the previous one we ran on metrics. But people were not very satisfied with the results in the end, which shows some interesting input bias. The expert allocation was preferred across the board. So we showed people the expert allocation, the non-expert allocation without labels, asked them which one do they prefer. 80% said they prefer the expert allocation. Cool, so some takeaways from this. Experts seem to be better than non-experts at like ranking projects based on their impact. That's one takeaway we have from this. It seems like cognitively, outright comparison is a very hard task. Right? Accurately reflecting of saying this project seems like it has provided 5 times as much value as the next project seems like a very cognitively difficult task, and we see a lot of like simplification of this task. Go for it.
Would some of these results make more sense if rather than saying expert, not expert, you said coder, member, or like coder, not coder? Because like,
say again.
Would some of these results sort of make more sense if you said coder, non-coder versus expert, non-expert? Because like maybe they're discriminating based on like solving very technical problems versus sort of a basket of different metrics.
Sure, I think expert is like we just looking at like category specific knowledge might capture, right? Like we're not saying these need to be like super OP stack experts, but it just shows relevant knowledge plays a big role.
But it's in terms of sort of what are like why are they better at discriminating? Like they're discriminating based on like solving hard technical problems. Is like presumably what this is showing.
Of course, I think the roll-up, the RAS provider example is great, right? Because it's like probably somebody looked into it, found out that the RAS service wasn't actually live yet, and like guest voters probably didn't feel as confident in making such a judgment. But yeah, so there is some value in how people rank stuff. In the like values they assign to it, these are much more problematic. All right, where are we going next with this? We're going to lean into a model which is trying to combine the best of both worlds. Can we find a world where we make data-driven decisions and we have humans in the loop to give us good, subjective, qualitative judgment? That's kind of the next chapter we want to go into. I'm not talking about it here though, it's kind of a cliffhanger. That's pretty much it. 2 minutes, any questions? Go for it, Holke. Yep.
So the larger experiment is, can you actually have retro funding that then creates kind of the forward-looking behavior that people actually start projects with expectations about reliable future retroactive funding? Do you have like more data on that, or do you actually also think that something that makes it more difficult? Makes it more difficult to actually get data on that bigger experiment because you run so many small experiments that make it difficult to analyze it.
Totally different, really important topic. How do we even measure like the success of the existence of this program? How much economic activity does it create, right? I think the blocker actually is iteration cycles. If you run rounds once per year on a topic, there's so much noise in there. With data, we might be able to like run continuous rounds that update like every other day, right? And then we could have much more like direct implications of the incentives that we set. But totally important topic, just not covering it here. I heard there was a workshop about it though.
Yeah, go for it.
So how do you measure the marginal contribution of a project? It seems like something like Solidity is very valuable, but let's imagine that there were no further contributions on GitHub to Solidity at some point. Clearly, still the community would say this is a really valuable contribution to the ecosystem, but no more work is being done. So how do you measure, like, especially as there's multiple rounds, not the like once you've already gotten an allocation, how do you prevent them from getting a second allocation for work already done?
I think in this model, it actually, the Solidity team can like, if it works fine, right? They could stop working today and we would fund them forever. Because what we care about is just like the ongoing value that they provide, rather than like, are they updating their code? There are probably like good examples of libraries that exist since forever and everybody's still using them. They're just like minimally maintained. And I think we should still value the library existing on an ongoing basis. I don't know if that answered your question. I don't know. Do I have more time?